Welcome to this morning's Degenerate Friday edition of the Morning Briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, along with Mike Lubie. Very happy to have you along for the ride here on nofilter.net. Always a pleasure to be with you. And you know that we love the smell of point spreads in the morning. I almost was inclined. I was just thumbing through some emails, Lubie, before I signed on here to the No Filter site to conduct and be a part of this program. And I saw a come on for a loan for up to $20,000. So naturally, always being a bit starved for capital and cash flow being what it is right now, a little bit prohibitive. And on my way to a racetrack later on this afternoon, I'm thinking, let me take a look at this. Let me explore my options here. So what pops up right away is the potential interest rate. And then following right behind that was a picture of our dearly departed friend, the late, great Vito, who had a handshake that even when he was being friendly, let you know that if you don't have my money at the graveyard by Monday at 10 o'clock, you ain't going to be feeling so good.
100%.
So, that's a no-go. We're going to have to hit a couple of football games here over the weekend. Speaking of which, we spent a large majority, Lubie, I don't know, well, you kind of disappeared for a while during the program yesterday, and it wasn't because you had to attend to something that was going on around the house. It was just your internet completely crapped out in the middle of the show. So I'm there like juggling balls there for about a half an hour thinking, hello? Am I on? A very awkward position for anybody in the entertainment business to be in. Now, is anybody out there? Can I get a laugh? How about you? The drunk in the back row? Anything. But we spent the large majority of yesterday's program, and I apologize for this, bemoaning the fact that we had taken a little sniff on the Arizona Diamondbacks at 50-1 to win the World Championship, the World Series in Major League Baseball. And that was before the postseason got underway. There were two 50-1 shots. One was our Marlins, and we thought they had no chance whatsoever. In fact, they're so hell-bent on self-sabotage that right after the season ended, they went ahead and said, you know what? We want to make sure that we never do this again. It'll be another 20 years before we make the postseason. Let's fire the woman that got us here. Which people are still, greatly mystified by, huh?
They didn't fire her. They just made it very uncomfortable for her to stay. They did that thing where they put you at nights, when you've been in morning drive for a decade. And they're like, we won't fire you, but, if you want to quit.
We know we can't let you go, but from now on, you know what? Overnights is a very important position on the radio job. Yeah, you go from doing like 6 to 10 in the morning, and all of a sudden you're on midnight to 6 in the a.m. That's a perfect lead-in for our new morning show. We really think that Brady Quinn is going to work out here as a host. Everybody, we are still and remain with this distinction, Louie, and I think it's quite a distinction. We are the only people that ever lost a starting job to Brady Quinn. It was part of a network radio program that replaced us when we were doing terrestrial radio. And, to tell you the truth, thank you, Brady.
Yeah,
you did us all a favor because we'd much rather be here. I mean, this is on the cusp of an explosion, the likes of which I don't think the media has ever seen before, if it isn't there already. But we spent the majority of yesterday's program. I don't mean to, be wasting people's time, but bemoaning the fact that this 50-1 shot, the Arizona Diamondbacks looked to be absolutely finished. Just dead in the water, right? The Phillies are on fire with a PHIRE, on fire. Everybody's hitting.
Yep.
This Castellanos, man, I mean, he can't miss a pitch. Bryce Harper, who we thought was highly overrated for so many years, we kept making the allusion to the idea that that the stone crab, a South Florida delicacy, was the only thing at like $70 a pound. And what do you get for that, Louie? You get 2 big claws. And it's mostly shell. So overrated. We had a couple yesterday. They were quite delicious, by the way. But, the best way to have stone crabs, if you're looking for this South Florida delicacy, you ever get a chance, I mean, they have like a Joe's stone crabs out in Las Vegas now. I don't know if is it popular around the country, or are people completely unaware of what the stone crab is all about?
I was going to say, I don't know.
What it means to Florida residents.
I don't know if the stone crab is a national thing. It's actually
not really, right? Because you can't get it anywhere else. It's one of those unique things. Is it like the walleye in Minnesota? No, walleye is a very common fish. You can catch it by sawing a hole in the ice and just sitting there for 7 days, freezing your ass off and going, well, we got a couple of walleye. Let's get out the grill. The stone crab, though, is a delicacy and very expensive. Unfortunately, the prices have become prohibitive, and we had it by the best of fashions, which is for free yesterday, and that may be the end of my stone crab season right there. That one stone crab that I was able to cop, while the other guys were like glomming 6 at a time. It was pretty incredible. But hey, after all of that, we're bemoaning the fact that the Arizona Diamondbacks are finished. Philadelphia Phillies on fire, and they're hitting what? They were hitting like a dozen home runs a game. It was incredible. They were on track to break every record. The computers were blowing up the database at Alliance Sports Bureau. I mean, they were going nuts every day. Hey, did you see this? Another record. And sure enough, last night, did you catch any of this ball game, Lubie?
I kept track of it. I actually didn't watch any of it.
Okay, all right. I was kind of immersed in it for a while, and they get to the late innings. It's still zip, zip. That guy whose name we can't pronounce, doesn't it look like Fat? I guess it's Fat.
Okay.
Something like that.
P-F-A-D-T. I thought it was.
It's like F-A-H-T, Fat.
Okay.
It's spelled fat, man. I mean, all I could think of was every great fat athlete. I'm thinking, holy Terry Forster, this guy is actually named Fat. But they managed to get by with this guy who was 3-9 during the regular season. The Diamondbacks, they get to the late innings of this ball game, and then on a walk-off base hit by Marte, they end up winning. And now, are they hopelessly out of it? Or is this 50-1 shot suddenly infused with life?
No,
is there the possibility that as we jumped off the bandwagon in a panic, all of our hopes and dreams are still alive? Isn't gambling something? I mean, you turn on yourself. Like I say, man, just every morning, get up. If you're thinking about betting the games this weekend, get up, look in the mirror, and say, I'm a loser. Now, on the other side, we did suggest to people on this show, and it was an idea that we borrowed off a handicapper, and I'm looking at the various angles to this and thinking, all right, the Houston Astros, even down 2-0, now is the time to dive in. Now is the time to assess that, okay, the tide looks right, Greg. Acapulco Cliffs, no problem. You'll try to execute the swan dive here. That used to be the most fucked up thing on Wide World of Sports. I mean, you were waiting for somebody to die doing that, weren't you? Did you ever catch that? Acapulco cliff diving? It's a perfect illusion to anybody that's taking a shot at trying to beat a point spread or two, especially if you're parlaying games. We had a guy earlier this morning tell us, a very astute handicapper, and he tells us the biggest moneymaker in all of the Las Vegas books, or now books around the universe, are teasers, which look to be so tempting, man. It's an apple in the Garden of Eden. And people are just losing their ass betting teasers and parlays when it seems like, I mean, how much easier can this get? Lubie, would you be inclined to bet a teaser on the Penn State-Ohio State game? If you were getting 10.5 points with Penn State, would you not feel confident that the Nittany Lions, as boring a team as they've been throughout history, even when they were good, they were fucking boring.
Yeah.
The uniforms sucked. Was anybody buying a Penn State helmet and walking around, or Penn State jerseys? You would rarely see one, right? Unless you were some Polish linebacker, you had no reason to root for Penn State. I guess Italians liked them when Papa Joe was there, but then that didn't end so in such a flattering fashion, did it? Papa Joe despised by people, or still universally embraced, as he was throughout his career? He was one of the most endearing people that you could ever see on the sidelines, even if you hated Penn State like I did. You thought, wow, I mean, I could kind of dig a little Papa Joe Paterno, no? Because he just seemed like that fatherly type, was the embodiment of everything that the idealists think that college sports should be all about. Never mind the fabulous moolah, right? And then with the Sandusky thing, my God, ends in disgrace. Is that the way it goes? He goes out like Jackie Smith, man. Can you believe it? He dropped one pass in his career, and it had to be that one. Even Roger Staubach is going, fucking Jackie. Staubach, who never had a bad thing to say about anybody. But the Astros now don't look so bad, right? 4-1. If you bet them, you have to wait till everything bottoms out. On Wide World of Sports, I mean, they used to show this, and then they would warn you that if the guy didn't time the tide just perfectly as it came into this little cove, he was going to fall into what the equivalent of a glass of water would have been from 300 feet above the ground. And then he was going to try and do some kind of Olympic style dive while he was doing this. Never mind, like going in feet first. That would have been enough, would it not, Lubie? But you're going to try and do some somersaults and some twists?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Ruin Arledge would have loved the X Games, wouldn't he? Ruin Arledge, the guy that came up and conceived all of this bizarreness. Best was what? The Demolition Derby? That was great. Wide World of Sports, West Islip Speedway. And cars just drive around like they would normally in New York and just go until they crash into each other until there's only one left. That's just how you get the traffic flow into the city. But anyway, Astros come back last night. That was great. Jose Altuve. I mean, you talk about, wow. I mean, a lot of people don't like him because of that whole cheating incident.
Well, yeah.
But Jose Altuve is a heck of a ball player for a guy that's like 5'2". Incredible. Right? The epitome of everything that you preach about baseball being a game that's for everybody, Louis. Everybody. Mm-hmm. You could be a candidate to be on the midget wrestling circuit and be like a great second baseman with Hall of Fame numbers in the postseason, numbers that eclipse that of many of the greats of the game, right? Don't have numbers like Jose Altuve. Now, he's been in a lot of games, 100 postseason games. But that being said, just misses another home run last night. He had 25 postseason home runs in 100 games. The guy's a second baseman, for God's sake.
And he's little, like you said.
Well, what are we talking about now? What was it? Brady Anderson, the guy with the Orioles, who went from hitting like 2 home runs a year to 70? Juice? I don't know nothing about that. Nothing, my friends. So the series now is 2-2. And you would have to say the Rangers, who had won 7 in a row and looked great in the process. Now, does the edge clearly go? I mean, are you not happy you took this 4-1 proposition, if you did, on the Astros when they were down 2-0?
Well, especially since they won the title last year, and they've been to like 6 straight ALCSs or whatever. Like it's insane.
This is their 7th one.
They built some steam. Yes, they go from being the team they're like, oh, they're done, to oh shoot.
Exactly. They never seem to lose their cool either. I don't know if it's because they know what the other team's signs are. Maybe is Jim Harbaugh now consulting with the Astros? Is that's the big accusation out there, is that he was stealing signs, which is not illegal anyway, right? I mean, if you can pick up on another team's signs while they're executing them, who could follow that though? I mean, do you see how they give out these signals in the college sidelines there? They got like 6 scholarship quarterbacks that are all holding different cards here. I mean, seriously. Kind of a sugar and a psychedelic show. I mean, unless you're Timothy Leary, there's no way that you could possibly steal the signs there. It's you would have to be on some kind of mushroom that even Carlos Castaneda would not have bothered to explore when he was writing all those books about doing mescaline in the desert. Ridiculous. All right, so that got exciting. College football. We want to pick a couple of winners here. We had some handicappers.
I have all their plays
earlier in the day.
I have all their plays. If you do want to go to our guys and share it here, I do have them in front of me.
Okay. I mean, the main game of the weekend seems to be just an overwhelming majority saying take the points with Penn State, no? Yes. Including one of our handicappers that's on fire. And the other game, too, that stood out to me, and of course, it means something to the people here in South Florida, more so than elsewhere, but it will be a big game, I guess. It's still an important game in the ACC, or is Florida State going to run away and hide, Lubie, in the ACC? They still have some, tests to overcome before the season is over. But Clemson at Miami, one of our handicappers who's a very astute college football handicapper, the professor, says that Clemson is almost like his double seal gold wheel super lock of the century, which you're watching the way Miami is being coached by Mario Cristobal, and you have to wonder, could $8 million not be sent to aid to people in Israel or the Gaza Strip? That would be better spent than paying $8 million to Mario Cristobal to create the same kind of chaos on the sidelines. I don't mean to compare what's going on with the Hurricane football team to, an ugly and vicious and brutal war, a situation that is as sad as any that we've seen, including what's going on in the Ukraine. But not to wax political here, but do you not see the late, great wrestling announcer from Championship Wrestling from Florida and was known around the world. The late, great Gordon Soley would just simply say, pandemonium is broken out.
Yeah,
Pandemonium. That's what the Hurricane sideline looks like. Who are these assistant coaches that Mario Cristobal has brought along with him that didn't go, Mario, you could take a knee here.
The whole sideline.
Your quarterback is throwing picks like he's passing out wedding invitations. Why don't you run the ball? That'd be a good idea. You could try it. Coaching decisions and the relative stupidity really does make you wonder, how is it that they could possibly make these kind of moves when they were sleeping in the office and working on this shit 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. All right, so what do you think? Penn State and Ohio State. Lubie, your call.
I mean, if you're giving me 10, then yes, I would take Penn State. But right now it's around 4 and a hook. All signs point to Penn State, but it is at Ohio State, and I think they've sort of started figuring it out. So I'm going to go against everyone in the world, including the handicappers we adore, and I'm going Ohio State and laying the points. I'm going chalk.
Yes. You would have to think that the bookies are just praying that Day can get it together here and that somehow the Ohio State offense is a little bit more in sync than it had been previously. I mean, they looked pretty desperate there in that win over Notre Dame, did they not? That, the end game of that particular matchup, I happen to be in a sports book watching a game. You'll find that surprising. In Atlantic City, New Jersey, and a lot of interest in that game. And there was a huge sigh of relief when it ended up being a push because the bookies were about to get buried there. They literally had plastic bags out there for the horse and race book manager and sports book manager. And he was ready to go. He was just ready to do a human sacrifice had Notre Dame prevailed in that game, which you thought they were going to. And that was one of the quirky games of the season here. And it shows you why we are largely fueled by self-sabotage if we're engaging in this type of activity. One of our handicappers likes a parlay, not a parlay, he hates parlays, but gave out the Bears. The Bears getting points at home against a Raider team that seems to be inept. Lubie, what do you think? Two weeks ago, if you said bet the Bears in any ball game, they would have taken you away in a jacket that ties in the back. No? The Bears were horrible.
They're both horrible, Bears and Raiders, but at least the Bears are at home.
Yeah. and he wants you to go again with the G-Men, the Giants, who covered that point spread last week easily. I mean, that thing was in the bag.
Yep.
I could have won the game outright. That would have been really something had Brian Daboll not spaced out at halftime. Another absolutely ridiculous, egregious, outrageous, pathetic coaching decision made by a guy who was the coach of the year last year. And this is the bonehead type of stuff that happens courtesy of his sideline and input into the game. You run the ball and get stuffed with 12 seconds to go before the half when you have a chance to accomplish a monumental upset.
Yeah.
People are screaming, money line, Brian, money line. And what does he do? Gets stuffed. Stuffed. Comes away with 0 points. Not even a cheesy short field goal that would have made it 9-zip. And you would have been in the driver's seat there with the potential maybe to cash a big ticket on the money line. That's what's so mashugana about all of this stuff. Anyway, I think Clemson does find a way to prevail over Miami. I'm going to go with the professor on that one.
I agree.
And Miami just is in decline here. And when you're looking at
Knight's hurt again. The Knight's hurt, but he's playing. And we saw last year they fell off a cliff when that happened. The guy doesn't play well through injury, so good luck.
No, and he was hurting in the last game towards the end of the ball game, and supposedly he's been limping around town, like he was Verbal Kent. He's walking around like he was auditioning for the remake of The Usual Suspects for the Verbal Kent role. Kevin Spacey playing that role, but Spacey, he got off. Let's put that. Holy Roman Polanski. What are we talking about here? Way to end up the morning briefing. Good luck with your plays. Thanks for joining us. For Mike Lubie, I'm Jeff DeForest, and thanks for being with us here on NoFilter.net.